Hi YouTube, welcome to another edition of Horror Hands, and for this video I'm going to go through all the Blu-rays and DVDs that I picked up in the month of February. So quite a bit to get through. I'll recap the Vinegar Syndrome and the Severin titles that I showed earlier in the month because I've watched quite a few of them. So yeah, get straight into it. So the first thing from AGFA is Attack of the Beast Creatures. Which was not as good as I was expecting it to be. It was pretty terrible, but it had its moments. Very, very low budget film where these shipwrecked people end up on this island and there's like these little kind of puppet creatures that are killing them off. So they were pretty cool. It had a few good creature moments. But I've got to say the acting in this was absolutely terrible. And usually I can look past bad acting, I don't really mind it, but something about this one, it was so bad, it kind of took me out of the film, so that sort of ruined it a little bit. But yeah, the puppet creatures are okay, it's very silly, very low budget, but glad that I finally checked it out. Oddly, it's set in the 1920s, which I don't really know why, because it's not really linked to the story at all, and nobody in it kind of looks or feels like they're from the 20s, but yeah, thought that was an interesting angle for the film. But yeah, Attack of the Beast Creatures. Okay, next up from Arrow, I picked up Audrey Rose, which I got to say, this was fantastic. I really, really like this movie. First time watch for me, and I just thought it was a wonderfully well done horror film. So this one from the 70s, and Anthony Hopkins approaches this couple. They've got like this daughter, she's about 7 or 8 or something like this, and he claims that his daughter died years before, but is now kind of been born again and is in fact their daughter. So a very strange plot, but really good. Really captivating story. Great performances from everyone in this one, and very intriguing story. I was hooked all the way through this one. Thought it was an excellent film. So if you want to see an excellent 70s horror film, which goes a little bit under the radar, definitely check out Audrey Rose. I thoroughly enjoyed that one. Right, next up from Full Moon, I picked up Bad Channels. This is one that I've wanted to see for a while. I do like my Full Moon movies. They're pretty cool, sort of like B movies, pretty undemanding stuff. But this one, aliens take over a radio station, and this DJ has to kind of like do battle against this big sort of rubber-suited monster. Not the best one from Full Moon, but I did have fun with it, and the practical alien effects in this one were pretty cool. So yeah, kind of middle of the road really from Full Moon, I would say. Okay, next up I picked up Bloodorama. This is one that I got in the Vinegar Syndrome sale. This is a triple feature. It's got 3 sort of low budget exploitation movies on this one. Night of the Strangler is one. I can't remember the other ones offhand, but I'll give them a watch at some point and check them out. So Carnival of Blood, Night of the Strangler, and Help Me I'm Possessed. So yeah, 3 low budget exploitation films there. Nice slip cover on it as well. So yeah, I'll give them a watch at some point soon. Right, next up. So this is Blood, Guts and Sunshine. Spoke about this one in my Vinegar Syndrome video. Really happy to get this in. This is a documentary about the making of low budget horror and exploitation films in the state of Florida. There's a big sort of production in Florida of these low budget trashy films, and this covers the makings of them from sort of the 60s up to the present day. And it's a really interesting documentary. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. I enjoyed watching it. Learned quite a bit about sort of what goes into these films. Be surprised how much work goes into these sort of low budget Z grade horror films. It always surprises me to see that and sort of hear from the people that are passionate about it. There's a few famous faces in this one. Herschel Gordon Lewis is on it, and a few other people. A few people I'd never heard of, and movies that I'd never heard of. I've got to be honest. But yeah, they really explored a range of exploitation cinema in this one. They started off with like the Herschel Gordon Lewis movies like Blood Feast and Colour Me Blood Red. They did a lot of like really low budget exploitation, like the Death Score Service horror movies, and a lot of just really trashy stuff that you usually wouldn't hear any rhetoric about the making of. So yeah, really good documentary. I enjoyed watching that one. So that's Blood, Guts and Sunshine. Next up from Wild Eye, I picked up The Bloody Man, which was okay. It had its moments. It's about these kids that discover this sort of character in this comic book that comes alive and stalks them. It had got its moments. It was set in the 80s, so I really liked the 80s vibe. It had got some excellent 80s style music. I don't know if they actually found some 80s songs or made their own, but the music in this was excellent. It went so much around the houses in terms of story. There was way too much family drama and talking in this one, and with a runtime of like 2 hours and 15 minutes, they really could have shaved off 30-40 minutes and it would have made the film a lot better, because it did struggle to hold my attention way too long. So bit of a missed opportunity I felt there from Wild Eye. They had something, but way too long and drawn out in places. Okay, next up I picked up Body Count. I did review this on my channel because I really enjoyed this one. This is an excellent slasher film. I'm trying to get it for years, and it was great to finally get it and check it out and like it so much. Really awesome 80s slasher film set in the woods with this killer going around chopping people up and whatnot. So yeah, Body Count was excellent. Really glad to finally get that one. Next up from Eureka, I picked up Brain Slasher, which was okay. It's kind of one of these that's set in the future in like a sort of a desolate desert wasteland, and that kind of setting doesn't really do it for me. And it's this woman, she's kind of I think she gets caught up in trying to fight off this like, oh, what are they like? It's quite high tech kind of thing. It reminded me of Hardware. I wasn't a fan of Hardware. I know a lot of people like that one. Very similar film. So if you like kind of that futuristic desert high tech feel of that, definitely check out Brain Slasher or Mind Warp, as it's more better known. I prefer this reversible cover art. Bruce Campbell was in it, but he didn't really have that much to do, to be honest. But yeah, not a film for me, but I do really like this Brain Slasher artwork. Quite retro there, I like that. Next up from Eureka is Breeder, which is not a French film, it's a Danish film, I think. Somewhere from somewhere like that. Don't know too much about this one, but it's something to do with a cosmetics company, and they're doing like experiments on people and torturing people and things like that. It was likened to sort of like the French extreme films of modern times, so I thought I'll give that one a try and see what it's like, and comes with a nice slip cover and that from Eureka. So yeah, I'm interested to check out Breeder and see what that's like. Next up from Intervision, I picked up Burning Moon, which is a pretty I think infamous gore movie in the world of shot on video from Germany. It was alright. It's worth watching for the gore. The gore is fantastic, but other than that, I wasn't particularly interested in it. Found it a bit hard to get into it and keep my interest. So yeah, can't remember what really went on in it, and one that I forgot pretty quickly. But yeah, the gore in it was pretty savage. So if you're watching it for that reason, which you probably will be for a film like this, the gore won't disappoint. So yeah, that's the Burning Moon. I have seen worse though, I have to say, from the comments and some of the blurb on the back. I was sort of preparing myself for an absolute gore fest, but I've definitely seen worse. Next up from Vinegar Syndrome, I pronounced this in my previous videos Karuku. I think in the film they say Caruso, Beast of the Amazon, something like that, which is a really fun film from the 50s in the Amazon, where these kind of plant workers are being killed off by this monster, and they sort of have to try and get to the bottom of it. The monster doesn't look anywhere near as impressive as what the cover might suggest. It's a really kind of thrown together costume. It looks pretty silly, but I liked it for what it was. It was a fun kind of jungle adventure film. Pretty fun 50s movie. I felt it had a few kind of early hallmarks of what would become the Italian cannibal genre, in terms of a lot of sort of jungle craziness going on. There's even a scene of like a mongoose fighting a snake, which was of course become quite a staple in those kind of movies later on. So that was interesting. But yeah, Caruso, Beast of the Amazon, pretty enjoyable 50s film. Next up, I picked up Death Knot. I've not watched this yet. I think this is like a folk horror film from Thailand or somewhere like that. So yeah, a bit of an out there one, by the sounds of it. I'll have to give this one a watch soon and see what it's like. Don't know much about it. Just happened to pick it up in one of my orders. So yeah, check out Death Knot soon and see what's up with that. Next up, from, I think this is Culture Shock, I picked up Death Magic, which is a really low budget shot on video trash of this kind of like from like old Western times. There's a proper name for it, I can't think what it is. And I think he's a bit of like a baddie, bit of a bandit, and he his spirit gets resurrected by these careless teens in modern day, 90s, when this was from, and he goes around killing people off. It was pretty good. You've got to have that threshold for shot on video to enjoy this one, but I did like the inclusion of like a Western feel to this one. I've not seen that incorporated into a low budget shot on video movie before, so yeah, it's not great, pretty trashy, but I did like that kind of little bit of a different story that this one brought. So that's that one. Next up, from Vinegar Syndrome, I picked up Death Row Game Show, which is a very silly kind of horror comedy from the late 80s of a guy who hosts a show, pretty much like The Running Man. This is a silly 80s version, 80s horror version of The Running Man, and this guy hosts a show and gets caught up in a load of stuff, a bunch of like criminals are after him and things like that, and they end up on his show or something like that. It was a silly one, but I enjoyed it for what it was. It's sort of take your brain out kind of entertainment. So yeah, Death Row Game Show, pretty cool. Next up, from Culture Shock, I picked up Devil Rider. Not had a chance to watch this one yet, but I really want to. The artwork on this is fantastic. I think this is like a bit of a Weird West kind of low budget movie. I really like that skull on the back. That's really awesome. So yeah, I need to check this one out soon and see what it's like. Next up, from Severin, I picked up The Devil's Game, which I thought was a movie. I think it's like a TV show. I think this is an episodic thing from the 70s or 80s, something like that. I'm interested to check it out. I just haven't managed to get round to doing so yet. But yeah, it looks pretty interesting from what I read on the back. Okay, next up from Severin is Dracula versus Frankenstein, which has had some really scathing reviews. A lot of people not impressed with this one. People think it's very stupid and very silly, which it is. But I kind of liked it. I liked it for its hokey 70s feel. Where yeah, Dracula and Frankenstein. I think Dracula's using Frankenstein for his own like nefarious means or something like that. Both of them look pretty terrible. Both of them look like someone's just thrown a costume together to go to a Halloween party or something like that, which only adds to the film's charm, really, that neither of them have any kind of intimidating factor. But it was okay. I liked it for its sort of just its 70s vibes and its sort of driving kind of feel. I don't know, I might watch it again at some point and think it's absolutely awful. But yeah, I enjoyed it for what it was. Thought it was okay. And this is a really nice release from Severin. Nice slipcase on that. Next up from Arrow, I picked up the Dunwich Horror, which is a movie based on a H.P. Lovecraft story. I kind of would have liked more sort of creature in this. They sort of alluded to it, but there wasn't really much going on. So yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of this one. Thought it sounded interesting, but it was just kind of okay. A lot of talking and people walking around in this one. I probably need to watch it again. Because yeah, like I say, it was just a first time watch, and now that I know more of what it's like in terms of its theme, I might enjoy it more. But yeah, a little bit underwhelmed by the Dunwich Horror, if I'm honest. But nice release from Arrow. Happy to get that for the collection. Okay, next up from Vinegar Syndrome, a bit of a crazy one, The 11th Commandment, which is kind of like half daytime drama and half sort of horror movie of this guy who's incarcerated in a mental hospital, and he's like the heir to this fortune or something, and this sort of crime boss has inherited it and taken over, and the guy ends up killing his way out of the asylum and trying to track down this uncle or something that's got the inheritance. Wasn't a bad movie. I kind of enjoyed watching it, but the weird thing with this was there was no one to root for, because the guy who was trying to get back to his fortune was going around killing innocent people, and the guy who had his fortune was like this shady crime boss or something. So very strange in terms of the characters and the things that went on in this one, but it was all right. James Avery was in it, and it's got a pretty good ending. The last 10 or 15 minutes was pretty thrilling. So yeah, 11th Commandment, not too bad. Next up is Fair Game, which was a good movie. I did like this one. This is it's sort of like a home invasion, or more like a ranch invasion. This woman, she has like a wildlife ranch in the Australian outback, and she's sort of set upon by these three guys, these three hunters, who start from just mildly intimidating her to full on trying to kill her, and she has to fight back. Really good movie, not one that I was that aware of, and one that goes a bit under the radar, but yeah, pretty cool film. I did enjoy Fair Game. Pretty well put together and everything. Next up, I've seen a few people talk about this one, and it's Fall, which is these two young women. They're like daredevil climbers, and they decide to climb this really high tower, thousands of feet up. They want to climb to the top of it. Of course, things go wrong, and they get stuck up there and have to try and get back down. But yeah, pretty cool film, really effective. If you're scared of heights, this will be like extreme horror to you. It will really tap into that primitive fear that you have. Yeah, it was okay. I was pretty entertained by this one. Pretty kind of a good twist in this as well. Kind of good how they managed to pull that off, despite just being stuck up this really high tower. And it's from the director of 47 Meters Down, which you can kind of tell it's pretty much the same story. Whereas 47 Meters Down is two women stuck underwater. This is just the other way. two women stuck really high up. But yeah, pretty decent movie. I did like Fall. Next up from Vinegar Syndrome, I picked up The Fear, which is not a movie that I've been a fan of, to be honest, but I got it really cheap on the Vinegar Syndrome sale, so I thought I'll upgrade it because it was really cheap. And did actually watch it again. It was all right. I probably enjoyed it slightly more than what I did when I saw it a few years ago. I like it for its 90s feel, and I've got to say the picture quality is so much better than the old DVD that I've got. It looked like a really dark VHS copy. So yeah, the picture quality obviously does really help. So that was good. But yeah, weird film. I'm still not sure what you're supposed to make of the wooden killer guy in this, whether he's like a full-on baddie or not. I don't know. He's weird. But yeah, The Fear, it was alright. I did enjoy watching it again. Okay, next up from Scream Factory, I picked up Feral. Not had a chance to watch this one yet. It's like a virus infection type movie. Looks pretty creepy, pretty scary looking cover there. So yeah, I will check out Feral pretty soon. Okay, next up is one I've heard a lot of bad things about this one, but this is the Firestarter remake. So yeah, heard lots of bad reviews, but this has been recommended to me by my friend. He saw it and thought it was excellent. So I thought I'll get it and see what it's like. So I think we're gonna. He's never seen the original, so we're gonna have a double bill evening where we watch the original and then the remake, which I'm looking forward to. So yeah, I'm looking forward to watching this. Hopefully I'll enjoy it for what it is. My expectations are low, but that sometimes can be a good thing. So that's Firestarter. Next up from Vinegar Syndrome, this was a 4K of Freeway, which I thought was a good film. Reese Witherspoon on the highway. She gets terrorised by Kiefer Sutherland, and a few things happen, and yeah, it's kind of her plight during and after that. But Kiefer Sutherland plays a really creepy, low-life guy in this one. Really good performance from him, and Reese Witherspoon as well is excellent as this kind of naive but feisty young woman who ends up in this unfortunate predicament. And it quite had a bit of a Tarantino feel, this one did. Not too much, pretty light on the horror, I have to say, other than Kiefer Sutherland terrorising Reese Witherspoon. But I did enjoy the film. Thought it was good, and I think Vinegar Syndrome has just released Freeway 2, so that's interesting. Okay, next up, also from Vinegar Syndrome, I picked up the Homegrown Horrors Volume 2 box set. So this comes with Hanging Heart, Moonstalker, and Dead Girls. Haven't watched Hanging Heart yet, but I've seen Moonstalker and Dead Girls. I watched them the other day. Both of them were pretty good slasher films. Moonstalker is one that takes place at this campsite in the wilderness. It was okay. They kind of changed the look of the killer. He starts off as like this kind of big, sort of bumbling like killer with a sack mask on his head. Looked really cool. And then he escapes and then just suddenly becomes this like really kind of slick looking cowboy guy. Very, very, very strange how they changed the killer like that. I really wish they would have kept him how he looked at the beginning. And then Dead Girls, another pretty cool slasher film. It's this female rock band that start getting killed off while they're hanging out at this cabin by the lake. So yeah, some couple of good movies there, and I'll check out Hanging Heart at some point. But yeah, that's the Homegrown Horrors box set, Volume 2. Right, next up from Mondo Macabro, we have The Horrible Sexy Vampire, which I've yet to watch, but Mondo Macabro specialise in these very bizarre Euro horror films. I'm sure this one will be no exception, but I do tend to like them for their artiness and just flat out weirdness, quite frankly. So yeah, I'll check this one out soon and see what it's like. Next up from Scream Factory, I picked up The Howling 3, which I've never seen. The Howling is one of my favourite films. I watched The Howling 2 a few years ago and actually quite liked The Howling 2 for what it was. Howling 3 was a weird one. Can't say I enjoyed it all that much. It's set in Australia, and this woman, she's a werewolf, and she belongs to this werewolf clan, and she kind of gets a job making this horror film, but she's a werewolf, and kind of goes into their family and gets a bit complicated. I didn't care for it, and yeah, it was a strange one, a bit all over the place. Some really cool practical effects. I did like the effects, but yeah, the movie itself, no, not for me. But good to finally see it. Next up from Severin, I picked up I Miss You Hugs and Kisses. Did review this on my channel, reviewed it with the notion that it was the strangest video nasty on the list, because it's really not a horror film. It's a courtroom drama with lots of sort of daytime soap like drama thrown in there. But good to finally get it, because I actually never thought we'd get a release of this. So thank you, Severin, for a nice addition. It takes another video nasty off. So yeah, glad to have it for that reason. It was an okay watch. It's a courtroom drama. So yeah, but yeah, pretty cool. I miss you, hugs and kisses. Next up, I picked up The Innocents, which is a new film, not the Deborah Kerr one from the 60s. Heard some really good things about this one. Gotta say, I didn't enjoy this film at all. Really didn't like it. It's like these young kids that develop these sort of like superpowers, and it gets a bit out of hand and it gets a bit dark, but it's really hard going, very slow, very dull. Just yeah, not my cup of tea at all. I would not watch this one again. Not one that I'd recommend because I just didn't like it. Really hard going movie. But yeah, never mind. Okay, next up from Vinegar Syndrome, I picked up Invisible Maniac, which was pretty fun, silly 80s horror comedy of this scientist who's working on a invisible potion. It doesn't really work, and he gets sort of jilted by the scientific community, and he goes a bit mad. And it does eventually end up working, and by this time he's working in a school. But he spends most of the time leering at all the schoolgirls while he's invisible. So yeah, a bit of a sleazy horror film, but it wasn't too bad. Pretty cool release from Vinegar Syndrome. It's a 4K, which is cool. Okay, next up from Scream Factory, I picked up Let's Scare Jessica to Death, which is one that I wanted to see for years. And I really enjoyed it. Really like this film. Not for everyone. It's slow burn, very slow burn film. And it's more suggestive. It's whether this woman is actually seeing bizarre things or if she's just going crazy. But I really liked it. It's a very gloomy, kind of gothic kind of film that takes place by this lake. Bit of vampirism thrown in there, bit of ghost stuff. But yeah, very slow burn. But I really liked it for what it was. Really good movie from the early 70s. So yeah, good to finally check that one out. And yeah, I really enjoyed that one. Next up is Mind, Body and Soul. This was a pretty fun one from the early 90s of like a devil worshipping cult. This woman gets sort of drawn into it, and she gets arrested for being there, but she's not part of the cult, so she's trying to work with the police to find out what's going on. And Wings Hauser plays her like defense lawyer, really underrated actor. But yeah, I did like this one. I would have liked a bit more kind of horror and cult. There's a bit sort of talking and legal talking going on. But it's got some cool moments. The cult is pretty cheesy, really. But yeah, I liked it. It was a good film. It has like that kind of that direct-to-video early 90s feel to it. So I did enjoy it for that. What's this one? This is The Monster of Camp Sunshine. This is another one that I just picked up really cheap in the Vinegar Syndrome sale. Not watched this yet. I think it's a really silly monster film from the 50s or something like that. So yeah, I will check this one out soon. And then from Severin, I picked up My Grandpa is a Vampire. So kind of just sort of like some PG silly horror here where these two kids discover that their grandpa is a vampire. It's okay. It's a horror comedy. Yeah, it's more silly than anything. I couldn't really get behind the grandpa character. I know a lot of people, I forget his name, he's in The Munsters. So a lot of people really like this performance. I thought it was a bit annoying. But yeah, it was alright. Yeah, not too bad. So next up is the Nasty Habits box set from Severin, the Nunsploitation collection, which has got Christiana, Devil Nun, Story of a Cloistered Nun, Images in a Convent, and The True Story of the Nun of Monza. And I really wanted to watch a couple of these at least, just to let you know what I thought of the films, but I haven't got round to it yet. But yeah, I will check it out at some point and see what it's like. I think I did mention this in my Severin video that nunsploitation isn't really my thing. But this is an absolutely beautiful box set from Severin, so I really wanted to grab it, and I thought it'd be a nice way to get a few nun movies into the collection in one. So yeah, Nasty Habits, really nice box set. Hopefully the movies will be decent, but we'll see. Next up, I picked up Pearl, which I did enjoy. This as a weird movie. So X I thought was okay, was a mixed bag. I enjoyed Pearl a lot more, although tonally it's very strange. It kind of looks and feels like almost like an upbeat, whimsical, sort of musical kind of film. Even has like touches of Disney in the way that it looks. It's a very dark and creepy film, and this Pearl girl, she's a very very toxic and disturbed young woman, and yeah, people that cross her path don't end up in a very good way. So yeah, she's living on the takes place in like 1918 or something, and she's living on the farmhouse with her mum and dad, and she hates it there. And yeah, things like I say, things go a bit dark, and she gets a bit murdery. But yeah, I did like this. It's a quirky little horror film, and doesn't look like a horror film at first, which I do quite like it when they do that. Got a couple of decent kills. The alligator thing from I think X is in this again. So yeah, I did really like Pearl. I thought it was good. And I got to say, it has the creepiest end credits of any film. Oh my goodness. Yeah, she was really creepy towards during those end credits. Next up from Full Moon, I picked up Piranha Women. So this is from Fred Olen Ray, actually, some modern day Fred Olen Ray. So you kind of know what to expect from this. But yeah, this is about these piranha women, women in bars that kind of seduce men, and when they get them back, they are piranha women, turn into like these piranha monsters. It's not too bad. It's quite heavy on the CGI. There is a one sort of cool monster that you only see for like a couple of seconds. It comes out of this swimming pool, but not too bad. I much prefer Fred Olen Ray's 80s movies, but this kept me entertained for 55 minutes. That's all it is. So yeah, Piranha Women, not too bad for what it is. Next up, oh my goodness. So next up is The Sadness, which I did review on my channel. This one blew me away. I thought it was an excellent film, and talk about brutal and violent. Oh my word. Like I said, I cover it more in my review, but wow. They really went for it in terms of the gore and just the savage way that these infected zombies attack people. Was not prepared for the level of violence that's in The Sadness, but yeah, really enjoyed it. Thought it was an excellent film. So is that one. Next up from AGFA, picked up Satan's Children, which is another kind of just low budget exploitation film from the 70s. Interestingly, this featured on the Florida documentary, so I do want to check this out, having seen a bit of the making of and the work that went into it. So yeah, I will check out Satan's Children soon and see what it's like. Next up, this one, VHS Hitfest, I think you say it. It's Satan's Menagerie. Again, not watched this one yet. It's a shot-on video film from the early 2000s, which will be interesting because I've only ever seen them from the 90s. So I doubt there's much difference in them, but yeah, this one came out a bit later on as far as shot-on video goes. So yep, I will check out Satan's Menagerie soon. Next up, another one I got cheap from Vinegar Syndrome. It's a really nice release. It's The Scary of 61st, with this like really cool mirror slip cover, which is pretty awesome. Not had time to watch this yet. I've heard mixed things on this one. Heard some okay reviews, but a couple of people have told me directly that it's a very weird one. So we'll see. We'll see how I go with this one. But yeah, that's that one. Nice to have that release anyway. Next up from Full Moon is The Scorpion with Two Tails, which is a giallo film from Sergio Martino. And I did like this one. I think it was originally like a TV movie or an episodic thing. but they put it together as a movie. So not as violent and gory as what you can expect from some giallos, but it's okay. It's got its moments. Takes a while to get into. I do sometimes struggle with giallos. I don't always find them all that interesting. But what I liked about this one is he throws in quite a lot of supernatural elements as well. It feels very inspired by things like The Beyond and City of the Living Dead. I think it even has music from City of the Living Dead in a couple of places. So yeah, John Saxon's in it for a little bit as well. So yeah, pretty good. I do like Sergio Martino's movies anyway, and yeah, this one was okay, better than expected, to be honest. Next up from Network, I picked up Shadows of Fear, which is a pretty under the radar TV show from the UK from the 70s. They just sort of show they're sort of like Tales of the Unexplained kind of episodes where there's a few sort of weird and supernatural things going on. I've only watched a couple of the episodes. It was okay. I can kind of see why it's not all that famous, but they were alright. I'll watch a few more when I get a chance. So that's Shadows of Fear. Next up, I picked up She Will, which I've not watched yet. Don't know much about this one. Yes, there's a blind buy. Looks a bit creepy. Sounds a bit creepy. So yeah, I will check this one out soon and see what it's like. Next up on 101 Films, I'm very out of season with this. But I did pick up Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. I saw it in HMV, really cheap. And Martin McLaughlin, who watches my channel, hi Martin, he did recommend this to me a while back and said, like, you have to watch Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. So yeah, I did give it a watch, and yeah, wow, what a film. The acting in it is something else. And yeah, I now know what Garbage Day means. The meme-worthy Garbage Day scene was hilarious. So yeah, very strange film, entertaining film for all the wrong reasons, I think. So yeah, this will definitely come back out at Christmas, I'm sure. So that's Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. Next up from Vinegar Syndrome, I picked up Sister Sister. It's another one that I got cheap from their sale. I've heard pretty good things about it, so I'll have to check it out soon, see what it's like. Next up from Wild Eye is a really good documentary called Smoke and Mirrors, and it's a documentary about the career of Tom Savini. So yeah, I'm sure I don't need to tell you, this is a really interesting documentary. Had a lot of fun watching this, got a lot of insight into him and his early life and how he got into movies and his creations and things like that. Even saying like he was a stage and theatre performer, did not know that. And yeah, they interview him in the present day. So yeah, really good. I highly recommend Smoke and Mirrors if you're interested in Tom Savini or horror films and their effects in general. Next up from Severin is Tales to Keep You Awake, which is another TV show starting from the late 60s. I only watched the first episode and I really didn't like it. It was really boring, and I've not watched another one since. I know you shouldn't judge a show just on the first episode. I will watch some more, but yeah, the first one was really dull. But some of them sound really interesting and quite like gothic and things like that. So I will watch some more of Tales to Keep You Awake. Just at the moment, yeah, that first one didn't grab me. Next up from Vinegar Syndrome, the VSA release, I picked up Ted Bundy, which was okay. The actor in it looks uncannily like Christopher Reeve. I kept expecting him to rip his shirt open and have the Superman S. So yeah, that kind of threw me off a little bit. And it was an okay film, pretty interesting. I'm not sure whether the guy had enough character to sort of portray Ted Bundy effectively. I don't know, it was okay. But yeah, decent film. And VSA, so you know it's going to be a really nice release. Next up from Full Moon, I picked up Tomb of Terror, which is just a low budget. It's 3 stories in one. And I think they're 3 existing Full Moon movies. I know one of them I've definitely seen before. But yeah, this was okay. Average Full Moon stuff here. And because there was sort of like 3 stories in one, it never really gets boring. So yeah, Tomb of Terror, decent little pick up there. Okay, so next one I picked up Tragedy Girls, which is a film about these 2 teenage high school girls, and they have like a podcast channel thing about sort of murders and things like that. And there's a serial killer going around killing people in their town, which of course they're interested in, but they capture him and then start killing people themselves to kind of get more views on their channel. So the film was done really well. It looks great, looks really nice. Some of the kills in it are excellent. But I had a real problem with this film because the girls are kind of like portrayed as the sort of the protagonists, the people that you should root for and get behind, but they were awful. They were awful, horrible characters who were murdering innocent people. So tonally, I found this one really strange and didn't like the ending at all. Very unsatisfying. So good in some places, really well made, but I think they really missed it with the character development and that kind of thing. But yeah, not too bad. It was an alright film. Okay, next up, I picked up a nice steelbook for Tucker and Dale versus Evil, which I've seen many years ago and really liked it. It's a really fun horror comedy of these 2 hillbillies. There's a hillbillies and there's a group of like cheerleaders and high schoolers, and both parties think that the other one is trying to kill each other. And things happen and people do end up dying gruesome deaths, and they keep thinking each one is doing it. So really funny kind of situational horror comedy. So it'll be good to watch this one again, because even though I liked it, I never picked it up for the collection. So yeah, nice to get this steelbook, and yeah, I'm sure I'll have fun checking that one out again. So next up, okay, so this was a charity shop find. I found this ridiculously cheap. It's a TV series I don't know if I'm going to like or not, but for how cheap it was, I thought I'll grab it. And it's The Vampire Diaries. So I got season 1, 2, and 3. So yeah, it looks a bit kind of pretty boyish. So it looks like there's a lot of romantic overtones in this. So I don't know how much I like them. I seem to be a big fan of Lying on the Grass in these covers. But yeah, Vampire Diaries, I will check it out and see if I can get into it. But I thought it was a good find in the charity shop. 3 Blu-rays for like £1 or something. Next up from Severin is Vampire Lesbos, which I do need to watch. I'm reliably informed by Rob from the Wacky World Lounge that this is one of Jess Franco's best movies. So if he says that, that's good enough for me. So I will check this one out soon and see what it's like. But really glad to get this window box edition from Severin. It is limited edition, so yeah, good to grab that while it's still around. And then last but not least, from Vinegar Syndrome is Extro 3, which I did watch and I enjoyed watching it. It's like these soldiers that go into the jungle and end up having to fight this Extro monster. Very much like Predator, but nowhere near as good. That's the best way to sum up Extro 3. But it had a cool looking alien creature. Very different from Extro 1, although it's a long time in between them, so that's understandable. So that is everything that I got in the month of February, guys. Thank you so much for watching that long video. As always, let me know what you think of these movies. If there's any that you particularly like or dislike, let me know. So thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more videos.